All right, let's jump right into this explainer. We're unpacking a massive update to a story that absolutely gripped Bangladesh a few years back. We're looking at newly released details from Maulana Mamunul Haq, a prominent leader of Hafazati Islam, who has finally broken his 5-year silence on the highly debated 2021 Royal Resort incident. For years, questions, wild rumors, and intense debates have just swirled around what exactly happened in that resort room in Sornagan. Well, now, through a detailed public statement on social media, he has laid out his side of the story. Our goal today is to look directly at the source material, his newly published claims, and visually break down his explanations step by step so you can grasp exactly what his position is. To understand this complex situation objectively, we're following a clear roadmap today. We'll hit the initial 2021 controversy, look at the origins of the marriage, why it was kept a secret, dig into those specific allegations, and then finally see how the relationship concluded. Let's get to it. Starting off with Section 1, the 2021 resort controversy. So, to really understand this, we have to rewind to the political powder keg that was early 2021. According to the source material, Mamunul Haq was already front and center on the national stage. Early in the year, he was heavily involved in widespread anti-sculpture protests. Then, in March, there were massive protests over Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit. He claims this timeline is absolutely crucial context. Why? Because by the time April rolled around and the Royal Resort incident actually happened, he was already a total lightning rod for media and political attention. He argues this pre-existing tension is exactly why a localized incident at a resort basically exploded across the entire country. Okay, so what actually went down in that room in April? Per his account, he was simply staying at the resort with his wife, Janat Ara. But man, things escalated fast. Local mobs and police quickly swarmed the room, and it turned into absolute chaos. The main reason it blew up so quickly was that people actually started live streaming the confrontation on social media. But here's the core pillar of his defense. He claims that right there, under all that immense pressure from the police and the crowd, both he and Janat Ara explicitly and clearly identified themselves as a legally married couple. Moving on to Section 2, origins of the marriage. For years, people had been speculating about how these two even got together in the first place. Well, he tackles this by laying out a very specific timeline. Janat Ara was actually previously married to a close colleague of his. After she and that colleague divorced, Mamunul Haq says they started communicating. They had deep conversations about their complicated family realities and the tricky situations they were both navigating. And ultimately, they decided to get married. He is super emphatic about this point, stressing that the marriage was finalized with absolute mutual consent, completely pushing back on any shady rumors about how they became involved. All right, Section 3, explaining the secrecy. Now, you're probably wondering, if it was a legal marriage, why keep it hidden? He addresses the secrecy head-on by stating that the social reality of the subcontinent regarding multiple marriages often causes serious family and social complications. Basically, even though having multiple wives is permissible within his religious framework, he acknowledges it still carries a massive social stigma, or at the very least causes a ton of family friction. So his argument is that keeping it quiet was a strategic, personal choice to maintain domestic peace, not some deliberate attempt to deceive the public for malicious reasons. And actually, he pushes back against the idea that it was a total secret anyway. He claims several close associates and family members knew all about it. Plus, and this is a big point for his defense of the resort incident, he asserts that the police actually verified their marital status on the exact same day of the chaos. So he's arguing that the authorities fully knew the truth, even if the general public was left in the dark. Next up, Section 4, addressing the allegations. Beyond just being at the resort, there were specific, tangible accusations made against him. A huge sticking point was the resort guest register. A different name was used instead of Janat Ara. How does he explain that mismatch? Well, he points to outdated documentation. He claims her official ID card at the time still had old information tied to her previous marriage. So, according to him, the name in the register wasn't a fake identity forged to hide an illicit affair. It was literally just matching the bureaucratic reality of her ID card at that specific moment. Which brings us to his biggest overarching claim. The entire controversy was weaponized. He states that the technical confusion, like the ID card issue we just talked about, was instantly hijacked. In his view, the massive public outcry and character assassination attempts weren't about genuine moral outrage, they were heavily politically motivated. Think back to that early 2021 timeline. He argues his high-profile opposition to the government put a huge target on his back, and his opponents seized on this localized resort drama to permanently ruin his reputation and silence him. Obviously, we are just laying out his claims objectively here, but his stance is definitively that he was the victim of a coordinated political smear campaign. Finally, we reach Section 5, the relationship's conclusion. So, where do things stand today? Well, according to his newly released statement, the total lifespan of their marriage was exactly 6 years. He confirms it officially began back in 2019, which, note, is 2 full years before the infamous resort incident, and it officially came to an end in 2025. Why did it end? He's very upfront about the sequence of events here. He says the immense public scrutiny and the sheer stress from that 2021 incident took a massive toll on him. Over the following years, a growing distance and various differences of opinion just kept building up. Because of this, they reached a mutual decision to divorce in 2025. And he makes it a point to clearly state for the record that up until the finalization of the divorce, he completely fulfilled all his financial and maintenance responsibilities toward her. As we wrap up this explainer, we're left looking at a drastically different narrative than the one splashed across headlines half a decade ago. Mamunul Haq has finally put all his cards on the table, offering structured explanations for the secrecy, the discrepancies, and the timeline. But we have to ask, will this detailed, though severely delayed explanation actually change how history views this highly polarizing event? Does a clarification 5 years after the fact have the power to shift public perception, or is the legacy of the 2021 Royal Resort incident already set in stone? It's a lot to think about. Thank you for joining me to unpack these newly surfaced claims. Keep questioning, keep analyzing, and I'll see you in the next explainer.